Federalist is our source here. Got several other sources. Most of them seem to be right-leaning. You'll see what I mean as we get into it. So, as always, keep that in mind. You guys know how it goes. McClosky's here. I haven't discussed this. Wanted to wait a little bit, give it some time to play out. I've seen the tweets from the Attorney General, Eric Schmidt. I've been keeping up with what's going on with what Kim Gardner's been doing. Honestly, let's watch this video, but I had never seen this until I just watched it right before I started shooting this. One guy kept up pretty good with the chants. If you noticed, he was yelling, "Let's go," even when they weren't banging on a drum or whatever they were banging on. Let's take a look at a couple more sources real quick here. Don't know what it is. I'm not even going to speak to its credibility, but something interesting. I was noticing this. What was this? They mentioned Kim Gardner, and I've seen other photos of her, but who's this? Because this woman actually isn't that bad looking. Let's examine that a little bit later. Let me read something here real quick, and most of you have probably seen the video. You're familiar with the particulars of the case. It says here, McClosky's handgun was inoperable when turned over to the crime lab by their former attorney, Al Watkins. Assistant City Attorney Chris Hinkley ordered the crime lab to disassemble and reassemble the weapon to make it work. In order for charges to be placed against the McCloskeys, the weapon had to be shown in working condition. It was not in such condition when the crime lab received it from Al Watkins, the former attorney for the McCloskeys. Did the prosecution tamper with the evidence? That's the question. It's posed here, though. How feasible is it that the McCloskeys' former attorney field-stripped the weapon to make it inoperable? How feasible is it that the McCloskeys deliberately made it inoperable after the incident? They stated they used the gun in a courtroom simulation prior to the day the mob showed up. Do we have footage of that? Can we verify that? Those are actually two very good questions, because I know that each side is going to want to believe what they want to believe, right? The right obviously is going to want to say, oh yeah, it's a prop, there it is. That's the smoking non-gun, I guess you would say. While the left would perhaps pose these questions here. Did the attorney do something to it? Did the McCloskeys themselves do something to it after the incident? The article goes on to talk about Soros-backed prosecutor Kim Gardner. Skip that. You can pause it here if you want to read that. But I wanted to show you this here. Senator Josh Hawley has called for a civil rights investigation into Kim Gardner. She has already been under investigation for her handling of the criminal case against former Republican Governor Eric Greitens. I'm not familiar with that case at all. President Trump said her actions were abuse of power, and the state attorney general has drawn up documents to dismiss any actions against the McCloskeys. The governor says he will pardon them if charges go forward. Kim Gardner claims she won't be bullied. Funny. She is bullying the McCloskeys, and that would be according to whomever runs this site. All right, what else do we got? Britt Hume here. I think he used to be on Fox. I don't know if he still is. I haven't watched the mainstream media in so long, I can't even tell you who's where anymore. Even if the charges are dismissed or the McCloskeys are pardoned after being convicted, again, we have a public official responsible for upholding law and order wink at a mob while treating law-abiding citizens as criminals. And I think that he makes a great point. That's the ultimate thing. Even if it turned out where the McCloskeys did, or their former attorney did something to the gun after this incident, that when you have these individuals out here that are, like he says, punishing law-abiding citizens, but letting the rioters, letting looters, criminals go free, letting them off with nothing. It can be really discouraging in a way because you want to believe that politics wouldn't be involved in prosecutions and arrests and things like that, but unfortunately, that's not the case. There's always some motivation, and it seems to be the situation where the divide is so great now that whatever these individuals on the left think that they can do, these individuals in office, Oregon, for example, whatever they think they can do, regardless of who it hurts and how much damage it causes to their city or their state or their county, as long as they're sticking it to Trump, as long as they're showing him who's boss, then who cares who it hurts, right? Because the damage rarely comes to their doorstep, unless, of course, you're the mayor of Seattle. And a few others that we've seen the mob go to. What was it? They were shouting down the Portland mayor, right? Booing him until he kind of got with the program and realized what he needed to say to appease the mob. So it's just an interesting dynamic that you have these individuals put in positions of power and they abuse it in such a way that they don't really seem to care about the citizens that they're supposed to represent. Just nothing but ego, right? And stick it to Trump in this case. We got another source here, Citizen Free Press. Again, not sure how reliable this is, but there's just little pieces here that I'm picking out of some of these sources I'm looking at. So right here, and we'll read this little part here, it says Assistant Circuit Attorney Chris Hinkley ordered Crime Lab staff members to field strip the handgun and found it had been assembled incorrectly. Specifically, the firing pin spring was put in front of the firing pin, which was backwards, and made the gun incapable of firing according to documents obtained by 5 on your side. Firearms experts then put the gun back together in the correct order and test fired it, finding that it worked. Crime Lab workers photographed the disassembly and reassembly of the gun according to the documents. Now that's the part that I thought was funny, that Chris Hinkley thought that, or maybe he thought, I'm just speculating here, but he thought that when he gave this order, maybe it would have worked if it was a situation where there was only 1 or 2 people involved that he knew closely, that he didn't think, of course, that's a given, but he didn't think that Crime Lab workers were going to photograph this disassembly and reassembly and then document it in such a way to where that's really good evidence for the McClosky's and whoever their attorney is now. He probably thought that, or was hoping, fingers crossed, that they would just go ahead and do whatever he said, kind of like that wink, wink, nudge, nudge kind of thing where they put it back together and just say that that's how it was when they got it. Again, speculation, but perhaps that's what he was thinking or hoping. All right, so one final thing here, and this is from a site called We Love Trump, so I wonder which way this is going to go. Tweets here. We love those tweets. Some dummy here says Trump is a national disgrace as a hashtag. It says, read the Casey Star editorial. It makes a compelling case against the existing AG's actions. This other individual writes here, she wrote the editorial before the evidence tampering by Gardner's office was revealed. Too bad, so sad. Another individual here says, C.A. Gardner is one of a new generation of prosecutors elected by their communities to correct historic and ongoing harms associated with racism. Okay. Was she out there with her Black Lives Matter shirt protesting? Probably. And seek justice rather than increasing number of convictions and prison terms. This tweet didn't age well either. And if correcting historical and ongoing harms associated with racism takes a little bit of evidence tampering, so be it. I thought that was pretty funny. Now getting back to that photo from before, and this here, not sure what this is. I really don't know what that is relative to that first photo that I was talking about. I can't look at it anymore. Oh, let me scroll down here. There we go. It says you might like. Yeah, that's a little bit better. What do we think here? Oh, goodness. All I can ever say in situations like this is that at points in the past, prosecutions maliciously have gone against certain ethnicities. There's no doubt that that's happened disproportionately. However, we live in a better day and age, you hope or you assume, that you wouldn't expect somebody to, if this were true, if they really did receive the weapon in non-working order. And again, going back, if assuming the McClosky's really had the thing in non-operable order to begin with, they didn't tamper with it, the attorney didn't tamper with it, etc., before they passed it on. But regardless, what if I just thought of this? What if a situation happened where the McClosky's did rearrange the firing pin, but then when the prosecutor's office, Hinkley, they went ahead and it's true that he went ahead and tampered with the evidence as well and ordered other individuals to tamper with the evidence as well. And you would think that Kim Gardner would be at the center of this. So it'd be funny if you had all these individuals kind of trying to tamper with stuff or mess with stuff and throw each other off. The buck has to stop here with Gardner and Hinkley, of course. It reeks so bad. It reeks. That's all I can say. And if all of this turns out to be true, you would hope that everybody involved in the tampering of it, everybody who knew about it, anybody who ordered this to put this thing in working order so they can charge the McClosky's, you would hope that all those individuals would be fired and face prosecution. Additionally, and I know that maybe some of you righties watching this may not agree, but I have this strong feeling about the Second Amendment rights, and especially the Castle Doctrine being so strong in Missouri like it is, that I think you need to have a serious look at whomever put out the order to have the McCloskey's guns confiscated to begin with. Where did that come from? I assume that came from Gardner and trickled down to the police chief. Those individuals, in addition to the law enforcement officers that went out to that person's house. Oh, we're just doing our job. Yeah, but when we're talking about violating amendments here and violating people's rights, I have a real problem with that. And it wouldn't hurt me in any way to see the police chief forced to resign and all of those officers at the very least suspended for their conduct, for their illegal seizure of that firearm. Like I said, the blue line individuals may disagree. I'm good with the cops and all that they do to protect us. I don't want to live in some hole like Portland or Minneapolis or Seattle. But at the same time, if there's something that you're told to do that's a constitutional violation and you just go ahead and do it and claim, I was just doing my job, well, you can say no. You can come out and say no. We've seen sheriffs do this where they've said, no, I'm not going to go ahead and violate somebody's Second Amendment rights. So I think there's a lot more that needs to come out of this, obviously, but once we kind of get this McCloskey situation hashed out in terms of the case being dropped, which it should be, then we need to go ahead and start looking at criminal charges, terminations, suspensions for all individuals involved and trying to, in essence, set them up. And that leads me to a final thought real quick. I think fortunately for these two, the McCloskeys, they're attorneys, and they know attorneys. Probably really good ones. Imagine if this happened to you or I, because it has. How would we be able to fight off somebody like Gardner who wants to prosecute us for simply defending our domicile? How would we have the connections and the power to go ahead and get an attorney like the McCloskeys were able to get? We probably wouldn't. We'd probably be stuck in the system. We'd probably be effed. And who knows? Would a state attorney general, would a congressperson, would the governor, would they come and would they step up for me if my rights were violated like this? Sad to say, it depends on the state you live in, right? In California, what if the same situation happened to me? I'd be fucked, right? It's sad to say it, but that's the reality, that fortunately they have individuals in Missouri in political power that stand by the Constitution and stand by Missouri law. And there's a lot of states where you don't get that. There's a lot of states where malicious prosecutions are happening if your ideology isn't correct, if you're the wrong color, if you say the wrong thing, if you look the wrong way, if you act the wrong way. It's a crazy game out there where people are just trying to score points politically with the people that they think support them. All right, well, let me know what you think, everybody. Take care, and thanks for watching.